Okay, so guys, you are already, as we already have discussed, you are familiar with the Docker file, which you create your own image and all. Hope you guys would have practiced a little bit on Docker file and have got some ideas. Okay, so today we'll see the Docker Compose. As I said before, whatever thing you are learning, you just need to know why you are learning that one. Okay, what is the use of that one and how you will get it. So these three things, if you completely focus on those that particular things, whatever you're learning, you'll be mastered quickly. Okay, so far whatever things we have learned on Docker to create single container and multiple containers with a single image and multiple containers with the other images and all. Okay, so by using the Docker run command, creating the container and playing around it. But today we'll learn Docker Compose. So first, need to understand what is the Docker Compose, why we need it, and how we can create the Docker Compose or implement the Docker Compose in our project. So what is Sage? Docker Compose is a tool that was developed to help define and share multi-container application. Multi-container applications. With Compose, we can create a YAML file to define the services, and with a single command can spin everything up and tear it all down. So that is the Docker Compose. But why we need it? What is the advantage? The big advantage of using Compose is you can define your application stack in a file, keep it at the root of your project repo, and easily enable someone else to contribute to your project. Someone would only need to clone your repo to start and compose the applications. That means whenever you are working on single applications, what happens? You can use Docker itself, create a Docker file, create the images, and create container using the Docker, and you can just run your application and deploy your application. But whenever you are working on multiple applications, multiple containers, like application stack, and that application stack could be your UI, your database, your business logic, your web logic, everything will be there in a stack, full stack, right? So if you're working on a stack, you don't have to work separately single container, right? Instead, what you can do, you can combine together and create multiple containers in one single file and manage from that particular YAML file using the Docker Compose. There is not much commands to remember in Docker Compose, only 3 to 4 commands that will be sufficient. And the thing is, you should know how to write the YAML file. So here there is the step and how to write the YAML file or the Docker Compose file. So what happens? As I said, whenever you are creating a Docker file, it should be created in the root folder of the project where you are going to build the application, build the image, the context area, right? That should be project specific. So at the root of the app project, create a file named, and remember the file should be named as docker-compose.yml. Docker-compose.yml. Okay, so now let's go ahead and see the documentations here. It's very easy to install Docker Compose. Only the thing is you have to download the Docker Compose from the internet and then use that Docker Compose installer or Docker Compose program to work it. Let me show you how easy it will be. Let me quickly log in. I forgot to log in. Okay, so if we go here, 1 second, let me start the server and then we do that. Okay, by the time it get started, let me just explain you a few more things. What do we do here? We have to just install the Docker Compose. It will be very easy to do the Docker Compose. Either you can use the options like to download and then use directly the Docker Compose, or else you can use the Python package manager pip to install the Docker Compose. Pip install Docker Compose. Okay, so once it is created, sorry, once it is installed, you have to only use few commands, like 2 or 3 commands. One is docker -compose up to start and create the containers. The other one is to stop the containers, and another one is to down to completely delete or remove the containers and all. So we'll just see these commands, how it is working. Okay, it will be very easy to do that. And we'll do 2 projects today on Docker, 2 complete projects, and you'll get complete ideas how we can do that. It's very simple, guys. Only few commands here you can see, right? Docker Compose restart, start, stop, down, up, down, all this. I'll show you the difference between up and down, up and stop, start, and all this. Okay, we'll see all the complete details in a while. So now let's see that server is running now. Let me get IP address and connect. Good. So okay, so I have only one image is there. I don't want this. Let me see if any container is running. Nothing is there. Okay, all are dead. Okay, so what we can do now, let's go ahead and create our Docker Compose file. Create our Docker Compose file. So before writing the YAML file, and you have to write this in YAML file. So what is the YAML file? We already have worked on the YAML file in our Ansible classes, right? .yml or .yaml YAML file, that is yet another markup language. Yet another markup language. It's a very simple markup language where you have to just write the simple text format, all your code, but it is actually written mostly in the Python. So you have to be focused on the intendant. The intendant should be accurate because Python is an intendant programming language. So you have to focus on the intendant only. Okay. Now, what is the way we have to write the program? So I have few projects created. Okay. If you see this particular diagram here, 1 second, let me just reduce this one a little bit. Okay. What you can see here, the version, right? And YAML file starts with 3 dashes in the beginning, in the top, okay, whenever you start. And remember, as given in the documentations, first, you have to keep your YAML file as docker-compose.yml. No other name, only you have to put docker-compose.yml. The same thing, also, if you see here, the file name in the project folder I've created as docker-compose.yml. Okay, and this is just starting of the YAML file, and everything, whenever you write the Docker Compose file, you make sure that you have to provide version. And what is this version? It is not the version of the Docker Compose file what you are creating. It's the version of the Docker Compose, which Docker Compose version you are using. this version is given, I have given 2. So the same thing, if you go here, they have mentioned here in the compose file, we'll start off by defining the list of services or containers we want to run as part of our application. So services we have to start with. Now, if you go here, you will have these services, all the services we'll talk about, right? Now here everything are given the services. We'll talk about the services, don't worry. That's all it has given. Okay, fine. They have given all this one. So now you have to see the versions of the Docker Compose. So if I go to this particular overview of the Docker, so this is completely Docker. Sorry, it's about all Docker, not the Docker Compose. Create the compose file. They have not given anything here on the application stack. Okay, fine. So let me just tell you all. So you have to give the version, which version of the Docker Compose you are running, either 2, 3, or 1. You have to specify it here. And the services, as mentioned in the documentation in the compose file, will start off by defining the list of services. So everything you set up here, right, in the services section, that's all. Nothing will be there much. Okay, versions, Docker Compose versions, and the services. So if I just minimize all these, you'll see here I have only 3 services under the service sections. I have 3 services. One is www, which is the UI, and the DB data versions, database, and the PHP admin. One tool also I've been installed here, going to create container. So how many containers, how many services will be here? 3 services. So in these 3 services, we are going to create 3 containers. 3 containers. So in Docker, what we are doing, we are using just Docker run to create, Docker container run to create the containers. But the same thing in Docker Compose will it act as services, act as service. So which service your UI service, DB service, and PHP admin, suppose you have given your 1 service, the 3 services, it will create 3 containers. Okay, let me explain you each of these services. So once you see the under services, you have to write either UI, you can give, I can give UI instead of www, anything. This is just a name, okay? Just a name. I gave UI. Now, I have given the options build. Okay. Now, to know the Docker Compose command details, you have to find all the command Docker Compose. Okay. 1 second. You'll find how we can use the Docker command. Install Docker command. Start. Concept info Docker text of container. Get started. Okay. Now let me just go to the docker.io, and here if I go to the developers docs, okay, and there you'll find the references. Click on these references, and we'll see here the file format. We have Compose CLI also, right? We have Docker CLI, all the Docker commands and all. Okay, so similarly, just go to the Compose CLI, and you'll find what are the Compose CLI and what are the commands we have to use it. Okay, and how we can use this Docker Compose, YAML, web apps, and all. Right, these are the things it's given. How we'll do that. There is not much things to mention it. Everything I'll show you in my project itself. Okay. Now, if I go here, there are a few things you have to remember here. I have given build. Okay, I have given build. So what this build will do, I build dot. So if you remember, when we build a Docker file, what do we give? We give Docker build and -t, the tag, like the image name, and then dot, or specify the path where the Docker file is present. So here, similarly, I have given the build dot. So what it will do, it will build the Docker file which is available in the current context or current folder, right? So the Docker file I have written, like very simple Docker file. So this is actually PHP, Apache, and MySQL stack. This is a full stack project on PHP. I have another full stack project on Java and Tomcat. So both the things I'll show you today. Now, what happens here from PHP 7.2 Apache, this is the base image. I have given a comment here, base image. On the top of this base image, I am going to install the MySQL on this. Okay, to install this, you have to use docker -php-ext-install MySQL IE. What will happen on this particular container, particular image will have this PHP with MySQL extension installed. Why we need this one? Because we, under the PHP, on the PHP programming, we have to connect with our database. That's why we need this MySQL plugins or installations file under this container. Okay, now if I go here, we have given here ports. If you see here, when we run the container, we used to mention -p and then publish the port, container port, and the host port. The same thing also we are getting it here, ports -80:80. That means we are just publishing and exposing the port here. And the volumes. The volume sections we already have covered in our Docker, how to create the volumes and attach it, right? But the same thing, we are going to do it here. I have created a volume, it's called like this. I have given a folder and colon, this complete folder. Okay, what will do it here? I've given the links -db. So what this link will do? These links will provide us the connectivity between the services. Suppose I am working, let me just keep it as www. It will get wrong sometimes. So what will happen? If you see this www services, I'm going to link with the DB service. So where is the DB service? You can see here, I have the DB service in the below, right? And networks, default network. So what is the default network of Docker? You'll get definitely a question on this. What is the default network?
Breeze network.
Yes, exactly. So Breeze network is the default network. So if you're creating your own network, your company, in your project, your network people, or you have created a different network, you have to specify the network name here. So I'm using the default networks. Fine. So this is all about the WW services. Nothing is there. So we're just creating an image, building an image, publishing that, exposing the port, attaching the volume, and linking the DB services. So let's understand what is the DB services content.
Hello, sir.
Yeah,
hello. Sir, I have a doubt on the volume section. Actually, we have already created the volume in the host machine, or
no. Hello. We have not created any volume. Here it is. I have simply given a path. What it will do? It will create a folder called ./www, and it will map to the folder of the container of the Apache server. Okay, we have not created a volume. It's simply, I have just given a folder and the path and the file system, just path to create it. Okay, so I'll show you when we create a volume and attach it here. Okay, the volume is not yet created. It will create the path and attach directly to here. Okay,
it means it's inside the container. Inside when the container is created,
it will be inside the container and it will be under host on the local machine, on the server. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So now let's go ahead and check the DB server. So DB service, we have this MySQL we have this MySQL version 5.7.28. This is the image. See, there are two things we can see here. Directly, I'm using the image for the database service, right? But here in the build section, that's why I kept it two things here to make you understand how we can use the build to build our own image and use it, and how we can use directly the image. Okay, so these things can be done by using this one. Okay, so image, we are using just MySQL colon 5.7.28. This is the image I'm going. Again, the ports. The ports, what is this port? This is the default port of the MySQL. If you guys might have worked on the MySQL, the default port of MySQL is 3306. 3306. Now, and here I have given another parameters called environment. And this environment, we are going to set up the database user and password. So for simple and for our understanding, okay, I have just created a database called MyDB and MySQL underscore user Ranjit, MySQL underscore password, same thing I have given. Both root password and password I have given, so that it will not get confused if I forget or something. So simple password I have given it, right? Now, then I have created another volumes. I've created another volumes which will have this particular .dom file, okay? And then what we have to do, I'm just attaching it to the docker -entry point -init db.d. That means I should have a DOM folder which I'm attaching to this particular folder. Okay, now this DOM, I'll show you what this DOM contains and what is this www contains. Okay, I'll show you all this. Now, and I have created a persistent volume. We have a separate class on the persistent volume. Okay, and definitely you'll get questions if you are going for interview with Docker and Kubernetes. What is persistent volume and how it works? We have a separate class for only persistent volume. That time I'll explain you more on the persistent volume. So far we have understanding in the volumes. Okay, I have a question now, guys, for you. Why we need the volumes in Docker?
So suppose in case our container any reason it deleted, so we can back up our data.
That's the answer, but how we'll explain to the interviewer? See, we have to be explained to the interviewer very cleverly, right? Yeah, whenever you are speaking, make sure that you don't know only the answer. You have to explain a little more. We can say, like, we use this volume to back up the container data. The first thing, this very simple basic thing, we use the volume to back up the container data. Then you can just explain that why you need the backup, or we need to persist. We need to persist the container data. We use volume. But why? Because the nature of the container is whenever you terminate or delete the container, all the data created by the container also will be deleted. That's why we need the volume to take backup of the container data or persist the container data. Just give very basic answer, start with the small answer, then explain it a little bit, so that it will be the interviewer will understand that this guy has some good depth knowledge on particular things. Okay, good. So we need this one. Now network, same default network. That means you both database DB service as well as UI service, WW service are in both same networks. And we are linking this under -DB database services. Okay, good. These three things because we have to connect the database from the UI. That's why I have given a link here. The same thing, I have another service called PHP MyAdmin. Okay. So in the PHP MyAdmin,
Hello, sir. Hello.
yeah.
Sir, here in the DB service, we are creating two volume. Hello.
Yeah. No, here, see, I am just creating here I'm just attaching the DOM folder to this particular server. Here, I'm not creating any volume.
Oh,
here I'm not creating any volume, right? Here I'm just attaching one path. That's why I told you, I'm just attaching a path. I'm not creating a volume here. The same thing also, I'm not creating anything here. I'm just providing this path. This folder will be created automatically if not there. If it is there, normally you should create the folder, keep everything there, whatever you need to be reflect on the HTML folder, or anything happens, right? You have to just create and attach it. I'm just attaching it here. But here in this case, the only thing is here in this persistent, we are creating this volume, my var leave MySQL. So var leave MySQL will be persistent, means this container will be persistent. Now, if I go to this volume section, we have this persistent volume created. We have this persistent volume created. That's why I'm creating this, attaching this volume to this particular path. Now you understood?
Yes, sir.
So the persistent volume is created here, okay, and that is being attached here. Okay, now I'm going to use this PHP MyAdmin. So same thing, I'm using the image, but here I'm linking the DB services, but I'm using the ports 82. I'm using the ports 82 because this 80 port is already being captured by the UI service. Now, this tool, PHP MyAdmin, actually is a tool which being used to communicate with the database, and actually it's a database user interface. It's a DB user interface. Okay. Now, the same thing, MySQL user, and I'm connecting the database here. MySQL user, same thing, whatever we have given it here, same thing also, because this is a tool which we need to connect to the database. Now you understood I have three services here, 1, 2, and 3 services. Okay, www, DB, and PHP MyAdmin. So how many containers it will create, guys?
3 container.
Yes, 3 container, because here one image, it will create a container which the image will build, and here it will create another container from this image, and it will create another container from this image.
Sir, here in link section, DB colon DB, what is the meaning?
Okay, so here the database, I'm just simply connecting to the database site DB service here to communicate with the database. But here, as this PHP MyAdmin is a database tool, we need to specify this DB service colon, I'm connecting to the database links. So both you have to connect whenever you are using this PHP MyAdmin. Okay, that you have to use it. I'll show you in details when we execute this one and see how it works. Okay, now what happens here, if you see this particular folder, I have 2 more other folders which I have mapped to here. I have attached to the container path. What this contains actually, if I just minimize, I have one simple mydb.sql. See, mydb.sql. What it does, it's just simply creating a table. It's a very simple statement, create statements. I have put it here, right? Create table Persian. And here, just simply ID and name. That's all, nothing 1, 2, 3 and all. And this was created my previous batches student. Okay, so let me just delete all this and add something like Winchester. Sure thing. Okay. Now, what will happen here? I just added 4 name here. What will do this particular dump file? This is called dump file, right? So this particular dump file contains a create table statement, and it contains an insert statement also. What it will do, if you see this Docker Compose for the DB service, I have mapped this particular folder, dump folder, to this init db.d, docker -entry point -init db.d. So what it will do, when the container will create, as the DOM file is attached and the DOM folder is attached, and DOM folder is having my db.sql file, what will happen when the container will get created, it will automatically get copied to this particular -d folder, daemon folder. And you know the nature of this daemon folder will be executed when you start a container or when you start any services. So anything inside that .d folder will be executed. That means this particular DB file will get executed, and it will create a table and then insert the data into the database. Got my point, guys? Before that, the database have been already created, right, by using this one. So once it is created, it will insert the data by using this particular volumes, anything in the volumes available. Okay, now I have another folder which contains index.php, which contains index.php file, right? This PHP file will show us the complete details. Okay, now let's go and I'll explain you further once we do the setups. Okay, let me quickly do this project setup, and don't worry, and these things I'll put it in my GitHub pages. I think it will be there already in the GitHub my repo. Okay, so you can get the complete project and do the practice. Okay, so if I go to my repository here, I'll have the Docker Compose, right? I have the Tomcat MySQL, but PHP one is not there. Okay, Docker Compose project. Yeah, PHP also here, Docker Compose project. Okay, so I'll share these links. Yeah, this already Docker Compose project is here, and everything, all steps also I have written it here. See, all the steps I have written it here, how you have to do this. So this is a different project with a different one. If I just open this Docker Compose, it has a different different password files. It is a different with password. No, we have kept it secret. Okay, so that's also another project which I'll show you how we can store secretly your password, because whatever I'm just giving you from the basic, right? What we have done, we have just kept the password very open. But I have another project which will show you the application which can be not this one. Docker Compose. This is the GIF file. Okay, I think this one, not this one. Yeah, this one. Okay, this one is having the DB password. I kept the password in the .txt file, which can be secretly used in the compose file here, whatever we have used. This one I'll show you in the later classes. Okay, don't worry about this. So first you try to understand how it works from the basic, and then we'll move on to the little advanced one. Okay, So all these projects are available here. Even I'll just create another folder and put all these projects, Docker Compose project there, and you can just have a look into that. Okay. Now, what we can do here, let's go ahead and build that, use Docker Compose up to execute it. Okay. So what I'll do here, what is the project setup? If I go to this documentations, here I have given the project setups, how you have to do that. Okay, now let me just go ahead and put all this file together and create a folder first. I'm into this folder. I'll just create a folder called, okay, anyway, Docker Compose is not yet installed, right? Let me first install the Docker Compose. First install the Docker Compose. Either I can use pip install directly to do that, or I can follow this download process. Just copy this one. I'll give you these commands. Okay, hit enter. Now what will happen? Our Docker Compose have been downloaded, right? To user bin Docker Compose. So if I go to this user bin Docker Compose, see, we have this Docker Compose downloaded. This is a file. This is a installation. This is an installation of executable file. Okay, this is one of the executable file. That's why the next command we have to make it as executable. We have to make it as executable. So let's do that. Okay, so if I just check this file command, Docker Compose, what it says, Docker Compose ELF, this is one of the executable file and dynamically linked. So this is one of the, let me just see if I can do something here. This is not Unix file, I think. Oops. This is a binary file and developed in C or Python, which is I'm not able to. This is completely binary file, right? Good. Let me come out from here. So we have this Docker Compose file, executable files. Now what do you have to do? Once we get this one, we have to just simply create a link so that we don't have to unnecessarily go to this folder and execute the command. So what we are going to do, any commands normally in Unix being kept under this user bin directory. That means once you keep in a user bin directory, anywhere you can execute this Docker Compose command. Okay, hit enter. Now it's created. Now if I do Docker hyphen compose version, see we have this 1.25, the latest version of Docker Compose installed. Okay, so let's go here and same command. If I do again, it gives me the Docker version Compose here because I am in my current root directory, even it is giving. So I added this soft link of this particular command to user bin directory. That's why wherever you execute it will run. Good. Now let's go to the okay. Done. Now here, let me go ahead and create a folder called PHP project, something like this, PHP project. CD PHP project. Okay. And here, let me create one compose file. What is that? It should be docker compose.yml. Same naming convention should be there as per the command docker compose.yml file. Okay, enter. Let me just put it here, everything. Okay, now we can see here, I have all the things I have added in this particular YAML file, right? Let's save it, add it. Now, to set up this project, we need two more folders, right? What these two folders? We need DOM folder with the DOM file and the www folder, which should contain the index.php file, right? So I'll just create mkdir w dump. Okay, let's go to the dump folder and just go wide and create the file minddb.sql, right? So we have to be add the minddb dot. So let's go to the minddb. Let me copy this one. If I go here, minddb.sql. Okay, enter. And then, so save it. Let's go to the www folder. Here I have to add index.php file. Okay, and here let me copy the PHP code, whatever I have created. So dump is there, www.php. Let's copy this one. Then let's save this one. Okay. Now, as for the project setup, I have this Docker Compose YAML file. I have this dump folder which contains the database dump, and this www which contains the front end, which contains the application UI part. Okay. Now let's go wide and execute and run the container. Okay. Now if we do Docker container ls, we don't have anything available currently, everything running. Let's see. We have few containers which are dead.
Sir,
Can
we have not created the file, a Docker file.
Yes, that's a good pointing. Yeah, we have not created a Docker file, and we have to create, because the Docker Compose is having a build parameter which has to build the Docker image, and we should have the Docker file available. That's good pointing, Chetan. Thank you. Now let me find out actually these are the defunct container, dead container. I just want to delete. Can anybody tell how in single command, how can I delete everything? Because to delete one, I have to write one on command, one on container and delete. Okay. What is the command? To remove or delete a container. What is the command?
Sir, delete the for delete container Docker rm.
Okay.
Then dollar bracket start Docker ps hyphen q.
Okay. Anyone else? So whatever Jyoti said, Docker rm dollar bracket start, inside this is going to put Docker ps hyphen q. Okay, this is what Jyoti you said, right?
Yes, sir.
So have you tested this command?
Yes, sir. I think all container hyphen a also.
Ps hyphen aq.
A or here also rm forcefully also hyphen f. I think.
Why we need forcefully? Because the containers are not running,
stop.
it's dead,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So we should give hyphen aq. Should give hyphen a means all, then q. So here, let me explain these things to other people who will understand. What it does, we know that Docker rm command is being used to delete the container, And here we have to pass the value or the container ID, which will be required to the rm command to delete. And this command, we have created a subcell by using dollar bracket. So Jyoti, for you to understand, we have created a subcell. Inside the subcell, we have executed the command which will fetch the dead containers ID only. These three. This will fetch the dead containers or all container ID. You can say all containers ID. Then it fetch all containers ID, pass one by one to this particular command. Then it deletes. So this is one of the command you can use it, and another one you can use as Docker. The reverse one you can use Docker ps-aq. You can use xargs Docker rm. Whatever it will do, the same thing also it will do. Here, what we are doing, first writing the command and then passing the parameter here. Here we are executing the container ID and passing the container ID to the X argument here. The same thing, but in different ways. And that is what, guys, you have to learn in this way. See, I had given only one example, but Jyoti has found his own way to do this. This is how you have to learn, guys. Okay, you have to do by yourself unless nobody can help you. Okay, so there are different ways. That's why DevOps is a mindset. I said right earlier from the beginning, DevOps is a mindset. Automation, it's all about your mindset. It's all about your logic. It's about your thinking, your thought process, right? How you want to achieve that. To reach out a destination, you could have multiple paths, right? Multiple ways, but you have to choose which one is the best for you. That is the automation, and that is the DevOps you have to achieve it. If you understand fully the concept, it will be easy for you to jump into. Okay, good. Thank you, Jyoti. And nothing is there. So if you do RM, nothing is there. So no containers, fine. So we'll get expected errors, fine. Now, if I do Docker ls-a, sorry, Docker ps-a, nothing is there. No containers are running. Okay. Now, what we'll do, we don't have any containers there. Now we have the project created, and where it is. So we have this one. As Jyoti find it out, we missed the Docker file, right? So let's create the Docker file. Good. Now we have to write from, let's copy this one, which particular things we need from this PHP folder 7.2 Apache. This is the image I'm going to use it. Okay. And then run. I'm just running the command. This is the Docker file command to execute or install something. Okay, I'm using this installation package manager to install MySQL by using this run command. Done. It's very simple. Two things in the Docker file, not much. Let's save it. Done. Now, what we can do here, we have to just use only single command to execute it. What is the command? Only Docker compose up. You don't have to do anything else. You just created the Docker compose and put the required settings, whatever things there, and only single command, it will do everything for you. Okay, now let's go ahead and execute. These two commands are here, op and -d. -d is in the detached mode. In the detached mode. Okay, -d will be used in the detached mode. So let me just show you first with this, then we'll go with the detached mode and all. Docker compose up, hit enter. See, What first it does? It just creating the image for the DB1. First, it created a persistent volume. First, it created a network, default network. We created a network, default network, and then created the volume, and then it is creating the image and creating container out of that. All images are getting pulled out. See, it is building the image PHP 7.2. Just wait for that. After that, it is installing the MySQLi on the container, right? Yes. Now it is installing. It is creating container PHP myadmin. Okay. Now the third container is getting created. Good. 10. Everything. Now database is connecting, attaching the database DB service. Now it will not stop. Okay, it will keep running because I have not run it in the detached mode. It is now attached to the containers and all the logs will be displayed here in the terminal. Okay, now let me just connect to the another tab. Same basics, let it be there. And what I can do here, if I go and connect to this one, okay, situ-user @ then if I just go and get the IP address of the Docker server, let's connect to the server. Good. Okay, now if I execute Docker ps-a or ps or Docker container ls, see, these are the containers now running. This is the image, one image, and this is another image. This is the image which we created, and this is the image on top of this. One container, two container, three container. All containers created about ago. It's just all containers and up and running. Now, let's go ahead and access the containers. So all containers now running. I will access this container, and these containers are linked also. You can see here, all pointing to this for different ports. Okay, now let's go ahead. Paste it here, hit enter. See, as per this is our application UI, the front end, right? Which we had given www. This is the front end UI application, and it is connected to the database and fetched all the database, the PHP file, index.php file, whatever is written, it is fetching the database. Now this is one container, right? The database container will be already there in the here. The database container is there. Let's connect to the another UI container. That is the PHP myadmin. Okay, so PHP to attach this, to add this PHP myadmin, so you have to just give 82 : hit enter. See, this is the PHP myadmin container 82, right? And user is Ranjit. Password will give us Ranjit also. Login. See, this is the PHP myadmin tool. This is the database application PHP myadmin, which is connected to the database. So this is the database front end. Like we have other database front end, SQL Server, UI or Toad, right? There are different database, SQL Bench and all, right? Similarly, PHP myadmin, also a tool which you can connect to the database and do whatever you want. See, I have a tool, I have a table called Persian, and this Persian, we have this data. So also you can write SQL statement also here. Okay. So it will fetch these data, right? So this is a very good tool. Now we can see how the Docker, all this running on the container itself. We have all applications, full complete application stack you can see being running by the Docker Compose. Is everything clear, guys? Do you have any doubt?
Sir, in the Docker Compose, we have 3 container.
Yes.
Suppose we want to stop one container, can we do that or not?
Yes, you can do that one. So for that, what you have to do, suppose, let me do that one. You have to do single container, right? Suppose PHP myadmin, I want to stop it. What is the command to stop a container? Docker container stop. Give the container ID. Okay, I stopped it, right? If I do container ls, we have now 2 containers. But PHP myadmin is stopped. Okay, PHP myadmin is stopped. Now, if I go here, if I go and refresh that container which stopped, it will say not reached because the container is dead, right? Now, let me start the container again. I had stopped it. Now, let me start it. Now, if I do this, we have 3 containers now running, right? So let's go ahead and refresh this one. See, container is up now. Okay, this is the single container you use Docker command to do. If you want to stop all the containers, what you can do, you can simply execute Docker compose stop. The same executed, if I see here, when I executed container stop, right, it automatically displaying the logs here, right? Now let me just go ahead, use Docker -compose stop.
Down,
Okay.
I think.
No. Okay, from the error, what you find? Can anybody tell? This is how you, a DevOps engineer has to be. No, presence of mind you have to show here. What is this actually? Why we are getting this error?
Sir, we are not the right directory.
Exactly. Here it is clearly given. Are you in the right directory? That means whenever we execute this Docker compose, it will look for this Docker compose compose.yaml file, either this YAML or this YAML file. We are in, because this file is not available in this particular directory, right? Then we have to go to this directory where the Docker compose YAML file available. And from there itself, we have to hit enter. Now it is stopping all this. And to stop only, we used Docker compose stop. Suppose if you want to see the container, we have these containers, container ls. None of the containers are running now. If I do -a, we see all the containers available and all are exited. Means our container is available, but in a dead state or stopped state, stop state, right? It's not running. Now, if you want to start it, simply you have to just use start. Done. All now starting. See, all are off. So these are the basic commands. But there is a difference in stop and down. When you use Docker compose off, what it will do? It will create the all the services and run it. It will create all the services, all the container, and run the container. But if you want to stop only, use stop command. If you want to down it, that means it will stop the container and delete it and delete everything. Okay. To do that, we have to use down. Suppose you don't need this project, you did it for ad hoc basis, and you don't need this containers to be there. By using Docker Compose down, what it will do, it will first stop the containers and then remove one after another. All 3 containers will be removed. Let's hit enter. First stopping. See, first stopped the container and then it removed everything. Now, if we do Docker color container LSFNA, nothing is there. Okay, that's all, guys. And I have a similar projects, and this is a task for you. We have 1 week of time to meet up again on next Saturday. I'll share these projects and already this project in there, my GitHub channel, my GitHub repo. Okay, so the task is based on this one, you have to do this project. Already this project I have explained to you, and the other project which I have, you have to do by yourself. Okay, so we'll meet up next Saturday and we'll discuss about this, and then we'll start directly with Terraform. Any doubt, guys? Or we are good to wind up this call? We'll meet up next Saturday.